Welcome to Flourish in 5. My name is Heather Lawton, and every Friday I share a story, a lesson, or a quick idea with a goal of helping you gain a new perspective. Could you please share this episode with your friends? I would really appreciate it. Last week, I was talking to one of our elevators. That's what we call people in our Elevate program. And we were on a one-to-one Lifeline call, which is exactly how it sounds. Someone reaches out and says, I need help. I'm struggling with this particular issue, and we tackle it. Now, in this case, this photographer friend of mine has been dealing with some fairly serious eye vision issues as of the last year, which can be problematic when you're a photographer, but also not just her photography, but when she's editing. I can't remember the name of her exact condition because it sounded very medical and scientific to me. I just know that it cannot be cured. So she has to figure out a way to deal with this and work with it. And that's why she reached out to me. She said, I'm tired of just feeling terrible about this, and I need to learn how to accept it. So we were talking about the resistance between what we wish we had and what was actually happening, and how to accept it so that we can move forward in a way that is healthy and productive. Okay. So as she was explaining this to me, she was saying, it's just it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just annoying and it's bothersome, and it reminds me that I'm aging and it will never go away. But then there are people who are dying of cancer or who are losing loved ones. And I said, oh, okay. So what you're looking at is called comparative suffering. And this happens when we try to make sense of our own pain by comparing it to the pain of others. And I think that we all do this to a certain extent because the benefit is it helps us establish perspective, which can be helpful. But I think there is a difference between comparative suffering and perspective. One is healthy and one is not, because the danger in comparative suffering is that it minimizes the legitimacy of our feelings. Because even if you maybe hit your foot into the wall and broke your pinky toe and it hurt really bad, you were like, oh, at least I don't have cancer. At least I'm not dying. Yeah, those are all true statements. But does that make your toe hurt any less or make it any less inconvenient for you if it's something that you have to deal with? Of course not. Comparative suffering involves the need to see our own suffering in the light of other people's pain. But when you have this perspective, you start to rank suffering, and then you use it to either deny or give yourself permission to feel. And a lot of times it makes us feel guilty because we're not suffering as much as other people. You can see how this might be very dangerous, but also to some degree, again, the perspective thing can be helpful. Are all of your organs on the inside of your body? Yes. Okay. Well, then maybe it isn't that bad, or maybe it is, because whatever you're dealing with is still your issue and it's still challenging. We try to brush off our own painful emotions when we engage in this. When we are in comparative suffering, we're trying to say no, what I feel, I shouldn't be feeling what I feel. But emotions don't just go away because you don't think you should be feeling them. And they're still valid, even compared to someone else's suffering. Brene Brown explains how dangerous this thought process can be. When we deny the emotions we feel, they can fester and grow. They invite shame. We begin to feel ashamed for feeling sad, scared, frustrated, or lonely when we are fixated on the idea that other people have it much worse than me. This is a quote from Brene. This thought process makes us believe that if we allow ourselves to feel upset or disappointed, then we are delegitimizing the people who are suffering more than us. Brene explains that this shame isn't helpful because when we feel shame, our inward focus overrides our ability to think about other people's experiences, becoming unable to offer empathy, incapable of processing information about that other person. Essentially, the shame we feel from comparing our suffering is so focused on ourselves that it doesn't give us the room to even consider those we are most worried about. Isn't that interesting? When I read that, I thought, we are actually in comparative suffering because we're trying to rank our pain against someone else's because we think we're being empathetic to other people when it's actually the reverse. You're actually being extraordinarily selfish because you're focused on yourself. So there isn't empathy there. It's just you're feeling badly about how you feel. Then you are labeling and judging those feelings because maybe you shouldn't be feeling them, or what should you be feeling? And then you're just denying everyone and everything, including yourself, the ability to feel the pain. This is a really important concept to understand. There is no hierarchy of pain. Suffering should not be ranked because pain is not a contest. Your pain and your suffering is real. Your feelings are valid and legitimate. And just because someone else has it as what you would perceive as worse than you, again, doesn't minimize what you're feeling. And another risk with comparative suffering is that it can make you judge other suffering. So for instance, a friend calls you up maybe to complain about something like her decreased salary, and you roll your eyes because you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, she's so dramatic. it's just her salary. She's fine. She's not dying. If she only thought about those people that don't have jobs. So you're using it to judge others, which is exactly why you judge yourself. I think there are 3 ways to overcome comparative suffering. Well, number 1, I think you have to acknowledge what you're doing. Oh, I'm trying to rank my pain. I'm looking for a hierarchy in this pain. Well, what if you could just feel what you're feeling? Like my friend with this vision problem, it actually really sucks. So instead of saying, well, at least I'm not dying of cancer. Okay, that's fair. You're not, but how does that help you? You still have this issue you need to deal with. So that's number 1, feel what you are feeling. The second thing is learn the power of the word and my therapist explained this to me. We talk about it all the time. I'm a very black and white thinker. It's like either or. So either that person is suffering more than me, or I'm suffering, or maybe I'm not, or I should be feeling this. What if it's both and? Yeah, there are people who are suffering and I am suffering as well, period. And that's okay. That's just the way it is. It's life and it sucks, but that's where we're at. And then the third step is to practice empathy, both for yourself and, for others. So that empathy looks like when the friend calls you about the salary, you're like, yeah, that sucks. And I have this thing and it sucks. This is empathy for everyone. This is the opposite of judgment, where you are judging your own feelings about what you should or shouldn't be feeling. Then you're judging someone else. They're not ranking their pain appropriately. By the way, on this imaginary scale that you've made up in your head, because you're trying to make sense of it, there is no hierarchy of pain because suffering shouldn't be ranked. It's not a contest. What if we decided to opt out of the hardship Olympics, where you rank yourself, and learn to love and to lead with compassion and empathy instead? Again, that's both for yourself and for others. I hope that you found this useful. I'll see you in the next episode.